In this episode of exposing Christianity, we're gonna expose the tithe. Now, this is a juicy one because every church I've ever been to, I've never heard a church not teach tithing. Every church, every church, every single one. I've been 20 years, about 20 years as a Christian. All the churches I've been to, they all teach it. I've been to small churches, I've been to large churches, I've been to all black churches, I've been to all white churches, you know, um, I've been to different denominational churches. Fucking, I'm not even gonna get into all that. And even like nationwide, like churches I would watch on TV, whether it's YouTube or like however, so from TD Jakes to Joel Osteen to Kenneth Hagin to Kenneth Copeland to uh motherfucking Creflo Dollar, um, all of them, all of them. What's his name? Pastor Vernon. What's his name? I don't know his name. Pastor Vernon of the Word Church. All of them. Every single one of them teach that you're supposed to tithe. Every single one. And every single one of them is lying to you. Every single one. Every church, every pastor that teaches tithing is lying. They're lying. And it's easy to prove. I'm about to prove it right now. So let's get into it. Here we go. What is the tithe? So if we go to right here, Leviticus 27:3. And all the tithe of the land, whether the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. So there we see the tithe is of the land. It could be the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree. So let's drop down. Concerning the tithe of the herd or the flock, even whatsoever passes under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. Now, in case you don't know, a tithe means tenth, 10%. That's what that means. So here you got the tithe of the land, the seed of the land, the fruit of the tree, herds, or flocks. That's what we got so far. You haven't heard anything about the tithe being money. So let's go right here. Then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. There shall you bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, sacrifices, and your tithes. Right? So as we get into this, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, but you'll see that the tithe was always eaten. The tithe was some sort of sustenance, and the Lord would designate a place for them to carry the tithe to eat it there. Right? And that's the way that worked. So I just wanted to give some context to that right there so you kind of know what the fuck that's talking about. Now let's drop down here. That you may not eat. I'm trying to change up the old English, you know. But so you may not eat within thy gates the tithe of the corn, the wine, or the oil, or the firstlings of your herds or flocks. You see that? It's not saying nothing about money. It's specifically saying you may not eat the tithe of. The tithe was eaten. And what does it mean by within your gates? Gates, the cities. Cities then had gates around them. That's all that means. So within that gates, that's what that means. Cities were gated. Just like, you might put a gate around your house. Well, they did that to fucking cities. So now, again, you shall truly tithe all the increase of your seed that the field brings forth year by year. There's no mention of tithing on money. Seed that the field brings forth year by year. This is where it starts to get really juicy. And you shall eat before the Lord your God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of the corn, the wine, the oil, the firstlings of your herds and your flocks. Let's come to here. At the end of 3 years, you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase the same year, and shall lay it up within your gates. So as we get into this a little more, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but there were storehouses within the city, within the gates, right? There were storehouses. The tithe was to be brought there. And the whole purpose, the main purpose of the tithe was to help the less fortunate, to feed the less fortunate. You know, it's kind of like how we have these charity organizations that, you could donate food to, and then they give that food to people. This was like that type of system. That's what the tithe was about. And notice when they tithe. When do you tithe in church? Every fucking Sunday. Here, the tithe was at the end of 3 years. Church don't tell you that shit. When have you ever heard church tell you that? They don't tell you that shit. Look at all the shit that they leave out when they tell you that you're supposed to tithe and give 10% of your income. They tell you you're supposed to give 10% of your income. And some go as far as to say you supposed to give 10% of all your income. Even if you borrow money from someone, you're supposed to give 10% of that because that's income. This is shit that I've heard, like in person, like a lot, right? That's what they tell you. Have you seen anything like that yet? This is shit from the Bible. This is the King James version of the Bible. Have you heard anything like that yet? Every 3 years, the end of 3 years was the year of the tithe. All right, let's drop down. When you have made an end of tithing, all the tithes of your increase, the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, like it couldn't be said any fucking clearer than that. And you have given to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within your gates and be filled. So that's what I was saying. The tithe was to feed other people. It was to feed the hungry, those that were hungry. The tithe wasn't a fucking income to be collected, to be used and pay bills. These motherfucking pastors they're taking your tithes, which are not even tithes, honestly, not according to the Bible. Those money is not a tithe. You can't tithe on money. I'm not going to get into that, but you just can't. Money is not holy. I said I wasn't going to get into it, but I'll get into it a little bit. Money is man-made. Everything that God commanded people, according to the Bible, to tithe on was holy, meaning God made it. The corn, wine, oil, herds, flocks, sheep, oxen, God made all this. Man made money. You can't tithe off. Money is not holy. It's man made. It can never be holy. But these motherfucking pastors are deceiving people worldwide to pay 10% of their income every fucking check, every fucking week, every fucking Sunday. And they're taking your money and buying fucking jets and big ass fucking mansions and traveling the world and wearing $5,000 suits and shoes and shit and fucking living a life. Even the ones that don't got it like that. They're taking your money and paying bills with it, paying their bills. That church is their business. Those bills are their bills. That church is in their name. It's registered with the state as a business in their name. It's a business, no different than any other business. And they're taking 10% of your income and using that to pay all their bills with. And who knows, like whatever left, go out to eat with, buy a new car with, buy some new clothes with, buy new shoes for their babies with. They're lying to you. Simple as that. Okay, so let's get into this. Oh, this is just some more. So up here, some more. I'm gonna give you so much that like you can't get it twisted. You can't get it confused. There can't be any misunderstandings when I'm done. Cause I'm gonna give you so much. We just gonna skip. The children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of corn, wine, oil, honey, and all the increase of the field. And the tithe of all things brought they in abundantly. Where do you see money in there? The tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of holy things. Money, you notice nothing that's being mentioned as a tithe is man-made. Let's go to the next one. Again, every 3 years. And bring your sacrifices every morning. Bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes after 3 years. Now, here, this is where we get into the fear. This is these next two. These next two. I'm gonna start here because this one is first. This is 3:1. That's 3:8. So this is where we get into the fear. This is what they use to manipulate you into giving. So again, right here, let's go. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse. Remember that word storehouse. That there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Now, I'm gonna break that one down first. Let's talk about no. Okay, I am. I'll break it down and I'll show you. Okay, so boom. Bring all it's telling you where to take the tithes. Bring the tithes into the storehouse. What is a storehouse? The church will tell you the storehouse is the church. Storehouse is the definition is in its name. It's a house where you store shit. It's like a warehouse. It's a place where you store things. It's not a fucking church. Open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. What does that mean? I'm going to show you very quickly that's the church will tell you that means, man, just an abundance of blessings. Fucking get a new house, new car, fucking new spouse, new job, a raise, you know, a promotion, start a new business. Everything they tell you is basically monetary, like some sort of monetary materialistic gain. The windows of heaven being open is talking about rain. Rain. from the sky, you know. When it rains outside, that's what that's referring to, and I'm gonna show you. Now, will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, how have we robbed you? In tithes and offerings. That's what they use right there. They preach the shit out of that right there to make you afraid. Because if you go to church and you don't pay a tithe, they tell you. If you don't give, no, let me tell you, you go to church, you don't pay 10% of your income, which is not even a tithe. Like, where have you seen that? Anywhere. That's not even a tithe. But if you go to church and you don't pay 10% of your income, they're going to tell you that you're robbing God of what's his. And then they're going to tell you that bad things are going to happen to you as a result of you robbing God. Right? They're going to tell you, like, I've heard this shit. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I heard it. Every fucking church says the same shit. So they tell you, if you don't give 10%, if you don't pay tithes, but if you don't give 10% of your income, God is going to make your car break down. God is going to make shit start going wrong in your house. Fucking pipes going to burst. You might need a new roof. Your furnace may go out. Your house may get flooded. Like, they tell you this shit. They tell you something may happen to your kids. Your health may be affected. You may get sick. You may lose your job. They tell you this shit. I've heard all of this. These are the consequences that can come from robbing God by not giving 10% of your income. That's how they get them. That's how they get them. Now, what's storehouse? A building for storing goods. It's not a church. And the windows of heaven being open refers to rain. So that phrase is only used 3 times in the Bible. And 2 of those times it's referring to the story of Noah and the flood. And if you read that, the windows of heaven being open was that is referring to when the rain started. This is when rain, well, I guess the first rain had never been seen before prior to this. The windows of heaven were open when it started raining, and the windows of heaven were closed when it stopped raining. Talking about rain. And then, boom. And then you see it again, which I just read that to you about the windows of heaven being open, pour you out a blessing. The blessing is rain, right? Because, I mean, it's not even, right? Don't it just add up? Because, again, what is the tithe? Not according to these crooked ass pastors and church religious leaders, not according to them, but according to what they call the word of God. What is the tithe? What have we proven that the tithe is? The seed of the field, fruit of the trees, corn, wine, oil, herds, flocks, right? It's rain. All that shit needs rain to grow. Rain is the blessing. Now, so I've talked to tons of pastors about this. They all get mad at me because they couldn't answer me. And I was new in the game and they 25, 30 fucking years in the game and they can't answer me. Like I was just shutting them down. And they would try to lie. They would just keep lying. They would just keep lying. They wouldn't just say, like, huh, that's interesting. I'm gonna look into that and get back with you. They never said anything. They just continue to lie and just say stupid shit that didn't make no sense to try to prove It's like, you're full of shit, which I didn't say it. I would say it now though. Like back then I had a reverence for them, like a respect, because I thought they were, like people of God for real. But now I know they not. I don't have that for them. I would tell them they full of shit now. But anyway, not to get off track. So when I would talk to these pastors though, every single one, like a fucking cult, they all said the same exact thing. The reason you don't see tithing on money is because money didn't exist in the Old Testament. So boom, here we go. Truth is truth. I don't gotta go back. Truth is truth. So Genesis is the first fucking book in the Bible, and you have three mentions of money right there. How many times is money mentioned in the Old Testament? Roughly 2,000 Bible verses about money and possessions. So let me pause right here and say that I have a Bible on my phone, and when I search a word, it'll give me every verse that word is in, and it'll tell me how many times that word is mentioned in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, whatever. So the word money is in the Old Testament, is mentioned. Money, specifically, the word money is mentioned in the Old Testament 133 times in the King James Version, which is the oldest version of all of these, new and modern day versions and everything. 133 times. But pastor after pastor after fucking pastor, every single one told me the same shit. They didn't have money in the Old Testament. It's a fucking lie. Okay, so now this one is here. I'm just gonna disappear for a second. You can read this with me. I'm gonna read through this real quick. Here you have your have the tithe. They're talking about the tithe and money in the same story. They're talking about selling the tithe for money and then using that money to rebuy the tithe. All in the same story. And yet, every single pastor told me that they didn't have money in the Old Testament. So let's go. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of your seed that the field brings forth year by year. And you shall eat before the Lord your God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of the corn, the wine, the oil, the firstlings of your herds and flocks, that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. Now, I think I said this, right? About how the tithe was carried to a designated place. So that's what this is talking about. And if the way be too long for you, so you are not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from you, which the Lord your God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God has blessed thee, then shall you turn it into money, which means sell it. Bind up the money, which means take it. Take the money in your hand, of course, where else you're going to take it, and go to the place. You take that money and then go to the place which the Lord your God shall choose. And when you get to that place, then you shall bestow that money or use that money to buy whatever your soul lusts after or whatever you want to eat, because the tithe was eaten. So when you get to the place, take that money, buy whatever you want to eat. Oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, which is like, I guess, liquor. I don't know. Whatever. And there you shall eat. Right? And then let's drop down to 28. At the end of 3 years, again, 3 years was the year of the tithe. The end of 3 years was the year of the tithe. It wasn't every fucking Sunday, every fucking week, every fucking paycheck, every source of income you get. If you get Social Security, They tell you that's a source of income. You're supposed to pay a tithe on. You're supposed to pay 10% of that, and they call it a tithe. If you get a disability check, they tell you you're supposed to pay 10% of that. If you win the fucking lottery, whatever, if you win a fucking gift card, like whatever type of increase, monetary, whatever. If you have a fucking birthday and you get $500 in cash, you're supposed to give 10% of that. That's what the church teaches you. So 28, let's go. At the end of 3 years, you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase the same year and lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow which are within thy gates shall come and shall eat and be satisfied. So there again, the tithe was for other people. Most of the tithe, some of the tithe, 10% of that, like some of that you ate for yourself. But most of it, the purpose of it was to feed the hungry. Now, what is the right way to give? Churches never teach this, but this is also in the Bible. And this is how you're supposed to give. But this I say, he which sows sparingly shall reap sparingly. He which sows bountifully shall reap bountifully. Now that's just, that's just universal law. That, and all it's saying is that what you give, you receive. You reap what you sow. However you give, that's how you'll receive. That's all it is. It's not saying you're gonna be punished if you only give a little or anything like, or if you don't give it. It's just saying you give, or however you give is how you will receive. Every man according as he purposes in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. That's how you're supposed to give. It's not complicated. I'm not even going to say supposed to give, because you don't have to give if you don't want to. You don't have to. It's totally up to you as you purpose in your heart. If you don't purpose in your heart to give, then don't. I mean, me personally, I ain't gonna say me personally. Like, honestly, it's stupid not to give, because there's a whole world of blessings that come to you when you give to others that you can't even take advantage of if you're not giving. So if you don't give, you ain't hurting nobody but yourself. You're robbing yourself when you don't give. You understand that? I love to give. And I ain't about to hit you with no invitation to give to me. It kind of sounds like I'm about to set you up. It's not that. It's not, you know what I'm saying? That's how churches do though. I'm just saying, this is me. I love to give. Like you can't receive if you don't give, right? When you give, what you give is multiplied and given back to you. And if you don't give, then there's nothing to multiply. You're hurting yourself. You ain't hurting nobody else. You ain't robbing God. You robbing yourself. You robbing yourself of blessings. So it's stupid not to give. Like, there's no way you could love yourself if you don't give. Because why would you withhold all those blessings from yourself? Right? But I mean, it's up to you. If that's what you choose, that's what you choose. God ain't gonna punish you, kill you, destroy you, blow your house up, fuck up your car, like all this shit, kill your kids, like churches teach. But that's it. That's it. Tithing exposed. And shit, I remade the video and I remade it. This is the second one because the first one was like 35 minutes and I left a lot of shit out that I said in the first one and I'm still over 30 minutes. But what do you think about that? Like, what are your thoughts? I love to hear what you got to say about that.